you've just finished UV unwrapping your mesh. Now we want to know how to paint stylized textures in Blender. So first we want to go into the texture paint tab at the top. Then we want to go from object mode to texture paint. Now for this model, I do not have a reference. So what I like to do is experiment with different colors. To do this, I use the fill tool. The fill tool is equivalent to the bucket tool in any drawing software. Since I'm working with multiple models, I like to use color palettes. So here I'm adding a new color palette and I'm calling it Egg Launcher. Now it's time to start coloring your objects. So I decided to use primary colors. Now that we have our base colors, we can start actually texturing. Now I like to start by using gradients. Gradients allow you to essentially add more depth to your texture right from the start. It also allows you to mimic certain lighting properties of various materials. If you're new to painting materials, I recommend looking at reference images to see how light interacts with different materials. That way you can effectively use gradients. I also like to use paint masks to speed up my workflow. To do that, you want to go into edit mode and you want to select the faces that you specifically want to paint on. We can now go back into texture paint mode and we can select the paint mask button at the top, and now we can paint on our selected faces. The reason I'm using the paint mask here is to manually make shadows. There is also this other method I use to make more subtle shadows. To do this, you want to change the blend mode to multiply and adjust the strength to your liking. Now that I have my shadows done, it's time to paint something called edgeware. Edgeware is where you show wear and tear marks on the edges of your object. I also like to add highlights on my edges. How big or bright my highlights are depends on what material I'm trying to paint. Sometimes I also like to add another layer of highlights or edgeware. You can see that I'm starting to add some scratches on my edges. Your scratches don't need to be perfect because you want some randomization. So once you're satisfied with your edges, you can basically do the same thing on the next part you want to paint. Sometimes I like to add highlights in other places too, and here I'm adding highlights so the material can appear more glossy. I like to add in details where it makes sense to do so, so I'm adding scratches here inside the gun barrel. Now I'm going to start speed painting here, but we'll be slowing down on the parts where I'm painting certain details. If you don't want to watch the whole thing, you can just skip to the next chapter of the video. So sometimes I like to use Photoshop to do quick color changes or add details like text or images. Blender has a tool that allows you to integrate your drawing software with Blender, and it allows you to edit images and textures externally without much hassle. So I forgot to record the part where I added the chicken bear trap sticker on Photoshop. But anyways, here is the final result. Like and subscribe.